Thank you very much, President. I rise to pay tribute to a great friend, the late Kevin James Andrews AM. Kevin was also a valued colleague. He was the former federal member for Menzies and a minister in both the Howard and Abbott governments. Kevin was principled and he was compassionate. I join my colleagues in conveying my deepest condolences to Margie, his 5 children, and his family following Kevin's very sad passing late last year. Kevin's death is difficult to fathom. He was so full of life, a very young 69-year-old, super fit, and could ride a bike faster than men half his age. So his death did come as an enormous shock. Kevin was born in the country Victorian town of Sale in 1955 and on completing his schooling moved to Melbourne to pursue his law studies. His advocacy skills were first honed as an associate to Sir James Gobbo in the Supreme Court of Victoria and as a barrister at the Victorian Bar. He was always set to go far. From an early age, he also became known for his skills as a race caller, which of course entertained many people over many years. Kevin served his community, the Liberal Party and his country for 31 years, a truly remarkable period of service. Bound by his love of family and his Catholic faith, he was a person of true conviction who lived a life of service, dedicated to the best interests of Australia and Australians. I greatly admired and respected Kevin for his work as an MP, as a minister and, of course, as the highly respected father of the House. Kevin's ministerial appointments reflected the trust and faith which John Howard and Tony Abbott had in Kevin. His appointments included Minister for Ageing, Employment and Workplace Relations, Immigration and Citizenship, Social Services and finally Defence. He made a real difference, increasing access to aged care beds, restoring the rule of law with the establishment of a construction industry watchdog, improving the character test in the Migration Act, reforming access to welfare payments, committing troops to fight the ISIS terrorists in Iraq and Syria. As a backbencher, I worked closely with Kevin as Minister for Defence when he drove such significant investment into Australia's defence industry, and I also worked closely with him as Chair of the Joint Select Committee on the NDIS, which he undertook with such dignity and compassion. In February 2015, I remember vividly joining Kevin in Puckapunyal, where he announced a Land 400 Phase 2 tender. I was hoping he might have just cut to the chase and announced Geelong as the winning location, but that might have circumvented a few of the rules. But I did don a helmet and get by a gun and sort of look and sort of thinking that perhaps if I sort of stayed close to Kevin that someday it would happen. He held a press conference and I was just reflecting on his words. He said, "The first priority of a national government is the safety and security of its citizens, and the first responsibility, therefore, as Defence Minister, is to ensure that our military forces have the capability to be able to maintain that safety and security of this nation and the people of Australia. And where it is consistent with that, we also wish to encourage Australian industry to participate in the requisite capability that we need as a nation." I am proud to say that Geelong eventually secured the Land 400 Phase 3 project along with the Howitzer project, which we committed to in 2019. And throughout that long journey, Kevin provided me with much support and encouragement. Kevin's leadership on opposing euthanasia and providing greater support for palliative care inspired so many Australians, including me. Kevin was a conviction politician. Agree or disagree, but you always knew where you stood with Kevin. He was no fence-sitter, and in politics and public service, that is a trait to be much admired. In everything he did, the fiercest of political battles, the most difficult of decisions, Kevin undertook his work with dignity, decency and the strongest sense of duty. In paying tribute to Kevin, his former senior advisor, Anthony Mote, was moved to say, "I witnessed firsthand his commitment to serving the most vulnerable in the Australian community, whether it was supporting the aged, the terminally ill or refugees escaping persecution. Kevin's work was always marked by genuine compassion and an unwavering sense of justice. He also worked tirelessly to promote social cohesion, recognising the value of Australia's multicultural society. He always treated his staff and those he encountered on both sides of politics with the utmost respect and dignity. For Kevin, being a public servant was very much a vocation, not as a member of the public service, but as a servant of the public." And they were the words of one of Kevin's former senior advisors, Anthony Mote. Kevin was a leading light of the Victorian Liberal Party, and his passing has left a very big hole in our lives. Kevin and I enjoyed many wonderful conversations. He was a man of great wisdom, calm reflection and quiet determination. A state funeral was held for Kevin at St Patrick's Cathedral in East Melbourne on the 23rd of December 2024. Former Prime Minister of Australia, the Honourable Tony Abbott, AC, shared words of remembrance on behalf of the Andrews family, noting most importantly Kevin's love of his family. Tony Abbott said, "For all of his achievements on the national stage, it's the family that Kevin and Margaret have built inside their home with 5 wonderful children and their spouses and 7 adored grandchildren that will stand as his legacy as much as anything he did in Canberra." In the 2025 Australia Day honours, Kevin Andrews was posthumously appointed a member of the Order of Australia for significant service to the people and Parliament of Australia, to the Catholic Church and to the community. This was so well deserved. Kevin provided an example for us all. Vale, Kevin Andrews.
Thank you, Senator.